Africa's digital economy is rapidly transforming lives, boosting job creation and driving sustainable development. With a median age of 20 and a growing population, the continent has a unique opportunity to leapfrog fossil fuel technologies through data-driven innovations. The Africa Union's digital transformation strategy, that's 2020 to 2030, highlights the role of digitalization in reducing poverty and inequality while achieving Agenda 2063 and the SDGs. The European Union and the European investment banks are key partners, offering expertise and financing to expand internet access and digital infrastructure across public and private sectors, fueling economic growth and digitally fluent consumer markets. We have James Saruchera, founder, Afrik Foundation, joining us now for the conversation. Great to have you in.
Thank you for having me.
Right, just to set the foundation on this conversation, give us a picture of where Africa is at right now with its deployment of digital, right, across sectors, right, and its economy, and how that is boosting the economy at the moment.
Well, Nigeria, for instance, has an incredibly vibrant fintech scene, and that has dramatically improved the cost and convenience of transacting. And you're seeing banks following suit as well. In agriculture, we're seeing increasing adoption of precision farming techniques, enabling farmers to optimize resource use and improve their yields. And in areas like retail, your platforms like your Jumias and Kongas have made Nigeria a leading e-commerce market in Africa. But this is still just 6% of retail. So we're still really just scratching the surface there.
Indeed, we're still scratching the surface. And I mean, given that a significant portion of the Nigerian market is informal, how do you see adoption being driven, and what techniques and strategies can we use to drive adoption across board?
Well, we have to look at the key industries and activities that drive our economies, and agriculture is a massive one. If farmers are able to utilize smart farming techniques and utilize the ability to deploy things like fertilizer and pesticides in a way that's more optimal, that allows them to have more staying within their pockets, then that's already a very concrete example of us being able to move forward. From a manufacturing perspective, you need to have robotics and automation to be at the races. And when it comes to, for example, e-commerce, you've already had quite a lot of use of advanced analytics. But this is now going to the next level in terms of personalization as we start to see a greater use of AI. So there's essentially an application across pretty much all of the industries that represent economic progress in Africa.
Right. I mean, there is a lot going on. You know, nowadays, fintech, everything has tech attached to it, agri-tech. I went for a conference recently and I heard insurtech. But one, has the question, do we have the infrastructure and the capacity to drive this transformation with digital, right? Do we have the human capacity? Do we have the technological capacity to drive this, transformation and implementation? And to add to that, what role does the private and public sector play in driving this?
Well, the starting point actually is power, because without power, you can't have a digital revolution. Without power, even if you have talent, that talent needs to be connected so that they can apply their skills. So the first step is looking at how we power businesses. And so we need to transition from generators, for example, in mass, so that we are able to provide the most important input for the digital revolution, which is basically power, in a more cost-effective way. If we can do that, then that will make whether it's manufacturing or data centers or cell phone towers, it will make that output at a lower cost. So we have to start with power, and then once we've got a stable base of cost-effective clean power, then I think the other levers come in. So your talent, we need to completely relook at how our education curricula is structured, and we need to have AI embedded in every subject, not as a separate subject on its own.
I mean, so much there. So power first, then the curriculum, the education, should also have that imbibed in it, right? Being a part of it, being a part of the curriculum you mentioned, AI. Let's come to the regulatory framework. Do you think, what kind of framework do you think is needed to drive innovation, right? There are often fears that once regulation enters the room, innovation is stifled. How can we sort of balance, innovation is being driven, being supported, but at the same time, there's that regulation to give people assurance and security in adoption?
With emerging technology and innovation, it's better for regulation to be conversational rather than something that is an imposition. And an impositional approach just basically becomes outdated very quickly with the rate of change that we're seeing. So we need to make clear what constitutes harm and shouldn't be done. But on the upside, there should be no barriers to innovation. Good examples are, for example, Japan's approach to digital assets, whereby they let industry lead. And another example is, for example, how the Australian regulator works with payment processors. The regulator only steps in if there's an issue, but otherwise, in terms of innovation, they don't put a cap on that. They actually want to see the industry move forward.
Right. I mean, hopefully we see it, like you said, conversational when it comes to regulation. Let's come to Nigerian startup scene. It's been booming, attracting all that capital. What are some of the biggest challenges for tech entrepreneurs today, and where do you see the next wave of innovation coming from?
Access to capital is always a major challenge across Africa, and if you look at the capital that created the first few unicorns, a lot of that was capital that was coming from outside, which in some senses is a positive step. But also it's a question mark that we need to address in terms of how can local capital markets play a bigger role, because ultimately local confidence in local innovation actually drives even further outside innovation. The African Finance Corp recently put out a report that showed that there's over $1 trillion in capital that isn't going into industry, that isn't going into innovation, because you have a traditionally very risk-averse capital market that will basically apply capital to areas like money market funds and other short-term instruments that aren't necessarily the drivers of future growth. I see the next wave of growth coming from local entrepreneurs, leveraging AI to create local solutions. And so I think the previous era, we had essentially international solutions coming through to our shores and being adapted to Africa, but I actually see us developing more solutions from the ground up in Africa.
Local confidence in local innovation. Hopefully we do see that. Thank you so much for joining us from Zimbabwe. James Saruchera, founder, Afrik Foundation. A pleasure having you in.